There is no debate that the events of what occurred in September 2019 at Frederick County's longest-standing tradition was one of the biggest local stories of the year. Not just for Frederick County, but for Maryland as a whole. My name is Levi Trumbull, and today we will be reviewing the timeline of events surrounding the tragic Great Frederick Fair murder.
Coming up, two teenagers have been charged for allegedly attacking a man at the Great Frederick Fair.
Accused of killing a man at the Great Frederick Fair.
We're getting more information about the attack that ended up killing a man at the Great Frederick Fair.
So, from the beginning, on September 20th, 2019, it was first reported that a fight started around 5 p.m. in the midway section of the fair. It was reported that one person was taken to the hospital, but at this time, no reports of any arrests. The following day, on September 21st, the Frederick County Sheriff's Office put out a news release that stated, on Friday, September 20th at approximately 5:36 p.m., Frederick County Sheriff's Office deputies assigned to the Great Frederick Fair were notified of an assault near the midway area of the fairgrounds. A short time later, deputies located the victim, a 59-year-old white male lying unconscious on the ground. EMS responded and the victim was flown out by Trooper 3 to R. Cowley Adams Shock Trauma in Baltimore for further treatment. Criminal investigators responded to the scene and interviewed numerous witnesses who indicated that the person assaulted was the victim of an unprovoked attack. It went on to say the first juvenile, a 15-year-old black male, was charged with first-degree assault, second-degree assault, and reckless endangerment. The second juvenile, a 16-year-old black male, was charged with second-degree assault. At this point, the story started to take life, but it wasn't until the next day, September 22nd, 2019, when the story really caught local attention. On this day, the story broke with the shocking news that the 59-year-old Frederick County man that was involved in this incident had died from injuries suffered from an attack at the hand of the two juveniles previously mentioned. Early rumors suggested that the teens who attacked the man were taking part in what's known as the knockout game. The victim was later identified in a news release by Frederick County Sheriff's Office on September 23, 2019 as John Marvin Weed of Mount Airy, Maryland. All while this was going on, the Great Frederick Fair issued a statement reading, "The Great Frederick Fair's #1 priority is the safety and security of everyone on the fairgrounds. To ensure this, we engage a private professional security firm and the Frederick County Sheriff's Office to patrol the fairgrounds on a continuous basis. They work cooperatively with local law enforcement, including Frederick City Police and the Maryland State Police. In addition, fire and rescue are also on site to respond to any medical situation. The Great Frederick Fair deeply regrets this incident and sends condolences to the family of the victim. The Great Frederick Fair would also like to thank law enforcement for their prompt and professional response in controlling the situation and apprehending the suspects." So at this point, the story had taken a tragic turn, but still all the details had yet to come out and what, if any, further charges the two juveniles would be charged with. It is also noteworthy to report that the two juveniles were actually brothers and remained in the custody of the Department of Juvenile Services in Montgomery County. Neither of their names were released. On September 23, 2019, it was reported that a meeting was to occur to discuss any possible additional charges stemming from the assault by the two juveniles that led to John Weed's death. On the same day, it was also reported that the deadly altercation may have started over $1 rather than the knockout game as previously thought. Charlie Smith, the Frederick County State's attorney, stated in a press conference after the preliminary hearing that the 16-year-old asked Weed for $1 and then threw a punch at the back of the man's head after he declined. From there, the boys and John Weed had some sort of dialogue that resulted in the 15-year-old running at Weed and throwing the final punch that ultimately killed him. Charlie also stated at this time, since the boy who threw the fatal blow was 15 years old, that Maryland would not try him as an adult. He would have had to be at least 16 years old. When speaking about his 15-year-old son, the father of the suspect said in court, "My son is not an animal, and he's never been in trouble. He made a mistake. My son doesn't deserve to spend the rest of his life in prison," while the judge called the incident a terrible tragedy. On top of all this, there was a public reaction that stemmed largely from Frederick County Sheriff Chuck Jenkins to charge the boys with a hate crime. This, as far as we know, never happened. Later, a GoFundMe account was set up for John Weed, which ultimately reached their $20,000 goal. Jessica Rebecca, the organizer of the fundraiser, wrote, "On Friday, September 20th, John Weed, went to the Great Frederick County Fair to spend an evening of fun and laughter with his sister, his nieces, their loved ones, and his great-niece and nephew. At 5:30 p.m., he fell victim to an unprovoked physical assault. He was airlifted to shock trauma in Baltimore, where they did everything they could to save his life. The damage to his brain was too severe. He was not coming back. Late Saturday afternoon, with his mother, father, and sister by his side, he passed away. Please help my family during this extremely difficult time. We never imagined such a great man would have to die like this. We are seeking justice for him, but we'll have to fight. Anything you can do is appreciated and will be used towards legal costs, medical bills, and funeral costs." On September 27, 2019, it was reported that a vigil had been held to remember John Weed. He was remembered as a fun-loving handyman who loved to fish and who made his living as a butcher and also refurbishing antique furniture. Jumping ahead to October 21, 2019, it was reported that prosecutors had added a manslaughter charge against the 15-year-old suspect who landed the fatal blow that ultimately killed John Weed. At a hearing at Frederick District Court, Judge Julie Solt ordered that both brothers remain in juvenile detention while the courtroom was crowded with both relatives and friends of both the two brothers and John Weed. There was a lot of speculation as to whether the 16-year-old who threw the first punch, but not the fatal blow, would be tried as an adult for the assault of John Weed. That decision was finally made on February 18, 2020, when Judge Solt denied the motion by prosecutors. The 16-year-old was ultimately charged for the initial assault on John Weed and another charge for spitting on him, meaning that they both would be charged as juveniles. Finally, on April 29, 2020, the 15-year-old charged in the death of John Weed pled guilty to a single count of involuntary manslaughter. Aside from the manslaughter, the teen faced a charge of assault in the first degree and 2 counts of second-degree assault. These charges were ultimately dropped in an agreement reached between the teen's defense attorneys. On May 15, 2020, the 15-year-old who threw that deadly final punch was sentenced to remain in juvenile detention pending the completion of a long-term behavioral modification program. Judge William Nicholas Jr. ordered the teen to remain in the Alfred D. Noyes Children's Center in Montgomery County. And from there, that pretty much sums it up. The 16-year-old has yet to stand trial, but as we know, his charges are far less severe than that of his 15-year-old brother. I hope this video was able to catch everyone up to speed, and thank you for tuning in. We'll catch you the next time.